skills in one area, they are very often transferable to another area. Right, great, we now have a full panel, so you can stop listening to me. And so this one is technology for people and planet, and I've got, as always, people from different sectors, just to show to you that if you're a farmer, you don't have to be mucking out in boots, or if you're a forester, you don't have to be wielding an axe. There are digital or more technical jobs, if that's the sort of thing you like, in every type of job. Although I'm sure all these people do a bit of everything, to be honest. So, in no particular order, it is the order that people got back to me saying that they'd like to take part. I will start with Scott McAulay. So Scott McAulay is a regenerative design and infrastructure specialist. I would call him an architect, he's not qualified, but he jolly well ought to be. He is one of the most passionate advocates of regenerative design in the architectural sphere, and he founded the Anthropocene Architecture School when we were at Glasgow, the Mac, and is been inspirational in talking to young people and to community groups. He goes a lot into communities to convert them to sort of do retrofit and such like. So, Scott.
Yeah, so I'm going to try and avoid as much kind of industry jargon as possible, and if anyone has like a question about something that doesn't make sense, raise a hand and it can be participatory straight away. But yeah, so I was originally trained, started uni 10, 11 years ago, but so architecturally trained, but most of what I do day to day is engineering, or is actually more social infrastructures. So on the kind of engineering side, I do what we call the life cycle analysis of buildings. So I look at a building 60 years into the future, I tell you how much carbon is embodied in that building, what's the operational carbon of that building, how much energy it's going to use, but I also apply that to whole estates of buildings at one time. So I might look at schools, say 3, 4, 5 schools, and we'll see how much energy, carbon, money can we save this school 60 years into the future by phasing the refurbishment of that building. But I also do circular economy works, so when you're doing the kind of the design of a building, we are now trying to use more of what's already there, because in the Northwest Europe, 1% of the components that go into our buildings are ever used again. So at the moment, we have a system where it's 99% waste after a building, the instant they're demolished, and that's where the huge opportunity is. For every 1,000 tonnes of waste construction material, it's been predicted there's about 70 jobs in social enterprises, and we generate tens of millions of tonnes of this. So there's this huge dormant waiting part, but at the moment that infrastructure is very informal. So rather than any high-tech AI-powered platform, it is literally email chains of people saying, we have this many panels of this, can anyone in this group use them? So for one project that I did last year, I got all of the materials to line and finish the inside of a school classroom from the strip out and demolition of 4 stories of part of an office block in London. So that was getting materials before they were taken apart in London and taking them to Birmingham. But I also do a lot with kind of community groups and otherwise. So that's the interfacing between the industry and the people who are using buildings, but also council adaptation teams. And yeah, I've not really planned this very well, and it will ramble a bit, but very much talking about regenerative design and technologies that we are looking at. We are in a kind of an age now where it's totally possible for the construction of buildings to do more good than they do environmental harm. So everything up to right now that we've ever been told as sustainability has effectively been damage control. And 40% of all the money that we spend on healthcare costs in any country is because of the buildings that we design, build and live in. So with the system we have at the moment, we are designing in poor health, we are designing in asthma, we are designing in poor daylight, we're designing in poor air quality. That doesn't have to be the case, and that's pretty much my part on teams coming from the RDIS sort of background. It's that where are the opportunities to take what's already happening on this project or between other projects and sync them up and to use that time to do 2, 3, 4, 5 things at once. So whether that's something as simple as turning our kind of continuing professional development into an opportunity to bring our design team together and learn with us. So like again, social, no big tech, very easy. But that means for a company, you're spending 1 hour to do 3 or 5 hours of resource, which is really useful. Other things are looking at the programme of an agricultural college, for example. So this agricultural college really wanted to be a circular economy exemplar. But the thing was, people in business, academia and otherwise do not like to admit they don't know things. So when I asked, like, is there anything on your sustainability brief you would like us to teach you about, then you can ask us some questions, they're a bit sheepish and shy and said, we don't really know what the circular economy is, like, where do we start? So again, my background's from teaching as well, so I've taught at 24 different universities internationally, from the University of Toronto to UC Berkeley, several in Scotland, several in England.
1 minute.
And what I essentially did with that project was identified they had two needs. They needed a building to store building materials that they were growing, and they needed a building to store tractors, literally a tractor shed. So by notifying them that if they were to simply design this building to be a circular economy exemplar, they could design out the needs to have to hire Portakabins for 24 years, save them multiple millions up front, and be able to invest that money into a new building entirely. So for the first time ever, there was no kickback from a single member of a team because we just showed them the practicalities of looking at things from a systems approach that would do more good than what we all keep doing in the first place. So it's the kind of the communications and the social is really, really important. So as much as this is about technology, I would say that the kind of sustainability begins with relationships. It doesn't begin with what you're building with or what you're making. It begins with how you're working with people and who you're working with. And also just being, it's very fine to care very loudly. I do that all the time. It's basically my job. And yeah, I'll pass on because I think that's within the minute.
Thank you. Thank you, Scott. We're getting practice time now. Oh, Stuart.
Yes,
right, Stuart, you are now going to do a double act if that's possible with Robert, because Robert came, you see, anyway, I've still got two. Well, you're very welcome to stay. There are, people drop out and come in, and so we've got two people from Solar. But Stuart, it's very much up to you. If you'd like to sit in the front row and join in on the Q&A, absolutely. If not, we'll just keep going with Robert. I don't know how busy your stand is. Anyway,
I could do a break.
Next, and so because this is technology, we're quite heavily represented. I try to split sectors, but this one is probably the one panel session where it's very heavily biased towards the bioeconomy, because there is a lot of technology in there, and I think it's such an exciting area that I love sort of hearing people in that sector. So the next one is Jennie Gibson, IndiNature. So this is the more low tech side of things, but still very much and I'll let you tell the audience what you do at IndiNature.
So I'm going to say sorry now because I've already spoken to quite a few of you on the store, so you might hear a little bit of what you've already heard, but my name is Jennie. So I'm the People and Policy Manager at IndiNature, so my job is to look after everybody who works there and make sure that their experience of working for IndiNature is as positive as possible. So I don't know if you want to pop up the slide, that'll tell you a little bit about what we do. So we were founded in 2016 as we believed there was a real need for natural-based construction materials at an industrial scale so that we could make the biggest impact on reducing the impact of the construction sector as possible. So we invested a lot of time in R&D from 2016, and in 2021 we got our first premises, which is our insulation mill in Jedburgh in the Scottish Borders, which is where I work. There's a very rich heritage of industry, which is very sadly sort of really reduced now in the Scottish Borders. So we're very proud of our insulation mill and its ability to produce jobs in the sustainable sector. So we make natural fibre insulation, which you can absolutely touch. It's not going to make you itchy, it's not going to make you sneezy or anything. So please do come and see me afterwards and have a squash of some insulation. I'm going to talk about my perspective. So going into a startup business, if anybody has got sort of entrepreneurial spirit, what you'll find is that you go in and you have to do all sorts of different things. So from translating the names of German bits of second-hand machinery to all sorts of different things. So we welcome farmers who might be interested in growing hemp. It's a crop that was grown in Scotland historically but fell out of favour. So we welcome farmers and we give them an opportunity to see where they can sell their hemp. So if they grow it, they know that they've got an outlet for it. We welcome students at the beginning of their careers, and so it's really an opportunity to showcase what we do, showcase that you can do sustainable and natural fibre at an industrial scale. Do you want to? So this is us modelling nicely in a hemp field in the Scottish borders. This was a trial last year, so we all got to go and sort of lurk around in the hemp, which was really exciting, because you can see the product, the raw material, and then the end product as well. So we're really working hard with farmers, and also with all parliamentary committees, to try and get the licensing of growing hemp lifted a little bit, because it's really prohibitive to farmers at the moment. Do you want to? Oh no, it's gone really small. Sorry, I can't read the text. But so we have 23 permanent employees, which we're really proud of. We've just taken on our first graduate trainee, which is a graduate trainee production manager, which was really exciting, because it shows that we're at a position now where we can start to bring people in and start to give them some of our expertise and take some of their knowledge fresh from university. We are very proud of being a living wage employer. That was really important to us, so that we're creating sustainable, well-paid jobs in the local area. We also do things like employee surveys, just to check in and see how everyone's feeling. We have a solid benefits package, just so that anybody who comes to work for us feels really supported and listened to and looked after, so that we've got people who've been with us right from the beginning, and we hope that will continue. I don't know if anybody has a quick question, I'm sure.
Oh, we'll do Q&A.
Oh, okay.
Sorry,
Right.
there
you go.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Thanks. And just in case you're wondering, this is not the hemp that you smoke. Just, as students,
No.
if you are hoping. And I've just completed my first hempcrete house, so that's made with hemp. So thank you, Jennie. And now it's Jamie Bankhead from Conglomerate Games. Now, very excited to have a digital gaming person, because I'm sure that will attract lots of students. But this is a digital gaming company with a difference, because they do a lot of work for charities and health sector and such like. So I think this is such an important thing, and we are developing a game at the moment with some colleagues of Jamie's, to make a game for people to understand the land use sector better. And I think it's really exciting that you can actually introduce regenerative ideas in a way that will attract students to get involved with the process. Sorry, I'm not being very articulate here, so I shall hand straight over to Jamie, who will be much more articulate, I'm sure.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Gail. So, as Gail said, hi everybody, I'm Jamie from Conglomerate Games. We are a video games company based up in Dundee. Our specialty is basically creating games to improve lives in some way. We take the best parts of games and then apply them to non-game scenarios like healthcare and education to solve problems. So these range from physiotherapy games for children with breathing conditions to medical training games for ophthalmologists. And we've done a bunch of math and literacy games for kids that have had over 17 million plays just this last year alone. So we work with experts outside the field of games to solve problems, whether that's adherence with a lot of our medical games, or trying to get across specific learning objectives with a lot of our educational stuff. To give an example, the breathing game that we did for children with cystic fibrosis, it's this chronic breathing condition. You get this thick, sticky mucus build up in the lungs. It's really horrible. You have to do these really boring breathing exercises, like just sitting still and doing these long breaths every day. You can imagine trying to get a kid to sit for up to an hour every single day. It would be a nightmare as a parent. So we basically built a game around their routine that they actually play with their breath. And we built the whole game around to encourage them to do it properly, to make it more fun, to give them a bit of competition with other people that have cystic fibrosis. And that game went through a clinical trial, because the great thing about games is that we can collect a whole bunch of data so that the clinicians can actually access and see, are they doing what they said? Are they doing it properly? Are they enjoying it? And that went through a clinical trial to great success. We had a lot of really positive outcomes as a result. And we've kind of taken that game and gone from there into other areas like education and other healthcare sectors as well. Because you can see how those kind of things can translate into like training and learning. And our current project is a game set in the Scottish Highlands where you are restoring nature and you're rewilding and bringing back the Highlands to what they should be. And as you do it, it's bringing back the magic as well. So there's some Scottish mythology and some Scottish Gaelic in there as well. So we want people to basically start taking an interest in what the Highlands should look like, as well as some maybe pick up the odd word of Gaelic as well. And that's kind of why we're here. We basically want to show people that games can be used in a really positive way and that you can actually apply games to these different scenarios across different industries to teach these different things. Because you don't need to have boring like learning seminars anymore. You can have a fun playable game to learn things now. Yeah, that's me.
Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you, Jamie. I'm slightly concerned. Sounds like you're in competition with us. Pictish, we've got Pictish monsters in our game.
No monsters, no.
No monsters, good. Okay, thank you very much, Jamie. And next one is Scott Baxter from Pictish Worms. So this is another entrepreneur who has founded a very green company, not at the quite such sexy end as, well, we're not smoking hemp over there, but digging around with worms. So over to you, Scott.
I find that quite sexy, but no. Yeah, my name's Scott, Pictish Worms. I'm a complete waster. That's my business, is waste. And I use a 300 million euro technology, basically worms, earthworms, to process waste. My business model is to try and be as low tech as possible. Because I used to be the kind of person in an office that would stand next to a photocopier and it would break down. But my business model is very much about sustainability. Ideally what I want to do as the end user would be growers or farmers, foresters, nurserymen, and to manage their own systems in, I suppose, the most cost-effective way, one which doesn't require high levels of technology or energy. So ultimately I want to not sell a product, but sell a service in terms of people being able to make their own product from the waste that they generate through using that 300 million euro technology, i.e. the earthworm. So that's probably brief introduction of what I do. I'm based in the northeast of Scotland. I'm currently working on a huge range of research and trials with the likes of Strathclyde University of Strathclyde, the Rout Institute, SRUC and others. We are only now beginning to adopt or be interested in the power of the worm, where it's being accepted throughout the world. I've got the uphill struggle of trying to gather as much UK evidence or develop as much UK evidence to give confidence to those growers, to those farmers, to adopt the practice of generating their own soil, effectively, or biofertilizer or fertilizer. So that's me.
Thank you, Scott. And then another entrepreneur. Well, I'm sorry, I forget what your role within Kenetech is, Sam. But another company that does good things with natural materials.
Hello there, good afternoon everybody. Sam Chapman, I'm one of the co-founders and one of the directors at Kenetech. Also make a good brew. Also have to do a lot of IT, a bit like what Jenny's saying. You end up doing all sorts of skills when you start a business, especially with a small team. Kenetech makes a type of building brick. We wanted it to be as typical, as obvious and as comparable as traditional clay bricks, but without the high embodied carbon that's associated with a clay-fired brick or a concrete brick. So the challenge, or the challenges that we wanted to broach are some of the biggest in society, and a lot of them are within, the construction industry is one of the largest contributors to these, unfortunately. So the largest contributor to waste, the largest contributor to global carbon emissions. And we saw an opportunity in this, in our own small way, in innovating and trying to use this huge recycled resource. I've always wanted to bin the word waste, because it's not, we shouldn't see things as waste, we should see them as a resource, as an opportunity. And we wanted to reuse a lot of this material that's in the system, that's been growing on year because of what was EU legislation, now UK legislation. Zero is to go to landfill, zero construction waste is to go to landfill. But that then results in an awful lot of this material being stored, being stockpiled, and needing to find new avenues. So at Kenetech, we found what we felt was a simple, elegant solution to this in creating a construction unit, a brick, something we all walk past every day. They build our homes, our schools, our hospitals, but in a very unsustainable way. You're cooking clay that you've dug out of the ground at 1400 degrees C. Is there a better way to do that with this resource? So we came up with our first product, the K-Brick. This is made almost entirely from recycled aggregates from the waste industries, which is certified inert waste, so there's no plastics, no metals, no organics. Sorry, these aren't biomaterials, but we're dealing with that vast amount of kind of heavy, low-grade materials that are in the system. We also use recycled plasterboard. And one of the genesis of this idea actually came from an ex-farmer who'd gone into the waste industry. He'd come to Glasgow University, which we're a spin-out company from, and saying we recycle plasterboard. SEPA, the environmental agency for Scotland, is reducing the amount of recycled plasterboard, i.e. the gypsum inside it that was to be used on the land. Can you find avenues for this? So broaching these sort of various challenges, we came up with this solution, the K-Brick, and that is now the first in a series of products that we're bringing to market. I've seen on Jenny's nice sample a BBA certificate. What's critical for the industry is to get certification for your product, and flipping heck, they're a difficult group to work with. Edit that out when it goes live. But critical, because you need to certify a product. We've heard about many tragedies and many issues in construction, even for certified products. So it's right and proper that products get certification, but it's such a difficult challenge for new innovations, particularly those in the sort of green space, eco space, however we want to call it, to go through a traditionally built system of British standards, Euro codes. Something that isn't a clay brick, isn't a concrete-based product, etc., etc. So very challenging, but we're very fortunate, as is IndiNature, to get this certification, and absolutely critical. And we're now being specified into new projects. And yes, we're a growing team. I sit here embarrassingly not being able to offer jobs today at the Careers Fair. But early next year, we hope to be bringing on new members of the team, because we're currently raising investment. And yes, that's kind of a brief of our story at Kenetech. Please come and see our products downstairs and welcome the conversation.
Thank you. Thank you, Sam, and apologies for, I think I've always heard your co-founder speak at other things, so I've never met the other half, so to speak. But deliberately I'm trying to get people that come from businesses and larger organisations that have different people. So, Jennie representing sort of more the human resources side, and the founders and technical people. So just to reinforce the fact that in all these organisations there's a whole range of jobs available. So now we're going to have a double act. So I'm afraid that means you've both got to be very short, because as you see, we've got Stuart Speak from Soultherapy, but Robert Lawrence very kindly has come, because originally it was meant to be someone from Soultherapy, and then they couldn't come, so I asked Stuart, not knowing that you'd be stepping in. So apologies, but if you can both try and talk about what you'll know each other's companies, and make sure that you don't do too much overlap, and sort of home in on what your company does that's slightly different from the other one. Is that okay? Because they're both solar energy companies.
Hi everyone, my name is Robert, and we're not really a solar company, we're a building services engineer company.
Okay.
So it's not going to align that much, I don't think, but I'll keep it concise.
Specify my comments.
Yeah, exactly. So we just do mechanical, electrical design, and then we send that design off to them, and they'll have a look at it, install it, etc. We do, I'd say, quite a huge range of different projects. We've got commercial, domestic properties that we work on, both retrofit, new build, name it. We've done private sites as well, which is always exciting. It's always nice to learn on every single one of them, because every single one of them is slightly different than the previous. Sustainability technology obviously plays a huge role in what we do. We do take pride in always trying to do the most sustainable solution for our clients. And our clients also range from communities to private people as well, and I find that quite fulfilling to do meaningful designs for communities and the small people. As far as our company, it was founded in 2016, so it's quite a new startup, if you will. It's also a very small consultancy. We've got around 10 people, a small team of engineers working for us just now, and unfortunately we're not really in a position to hire graduates just like yourselves, but hopefully in the near future that's going to change. But I'll leave it at that. Any questions, please feel free to see us downstairs. I'm more than happy to have a conversation about anything. And yeah, I'm not going to steal any more of your time, so bye.
Hi, so I'm Stuart Speak. I'm the founder of Saltropy. Now, Saltropy is basically, we have come up with a new way of solar thermal heating. So solar thermal is different from solar PV, the normal solar panels. They produce electricity, and that's great. Solar thermal is the less known sister or brother, that basically they use the sun's energy to heat. And if you need heat, it's a much more efficient process to do that. So I've always been interested in solar thermal, in green stuff. I made the first solar panel when I was 13, which was just like a jar with a black bag in it, with water in it. The sun hits the black, absorbs the energy, and you heat water. I'm just fascinated how we've got this. So in adult life, I was so annoyed every time you go past a building and there's this free energy hitting roofs, that it just annoyed me that it's wasted energy. And so I decided to put my money where my mouth was, and I did a prototype system. And my wife said to me, there's no way that's going on our roof. So I said, okay. So I decided I would look to see, this was way back in 2012, get a system installed. And so this is where techno-economics come into it, that it was actually a 50-year payback back then. If I was to pay somebody to put a solar thermal system on my own roof, it would cost too much money for the payback. It's actually a lot better than that now, because energy prices have gone up. So anyway, I decided that I would do it myself. I got trained, put the system on, and it worked great. The only thing was, I'm an engineer, you probably guessed. I felt that one of the biggest parts of the hassle of the system was it required antifreeze in it. So in Scotland and countries that freeze, you have to have antifreeze on it, because you get a fluid you're heating on the roof. If it froze, it would burst the system, it burst the pipes. So, but one of the problems with antifreeze is, the flip side is that you can't allow it to overheat, because it degrades. So when a system's designed, a solar thermal system's designed, it's designed for the sunniest day, so that the antifreeze doesn't overheat and degrade. Which then means that the next day, if it's cloudy, you've got a system which is too small. You could be doing a system which is 10 times the size, 20 times the size. So I was inspired by Kim McDonald, who came up with an idea of allowing a solar thermal panel to freeze. And I came up with a new way of doing it, which I felt was more easy to implement. And so I was commuting on the M8, and round about junction 4 I came up with this idea of how I could do it, and I basically ran with it. I managed to get a patent on it, and right now we went full time on the system in 2017, We've had various iterations. We've had some early sales, £50,000 worth of sales. Not a huge amount, but right now we're doing an iteration where this is the one where we're going to decide on the final what materials are in it, and we're going to get it certified. We've got a grant right now that's running where we have, I don't know if you've seen my demo unit down in the space down there. We've got 400 tubes, evacuated tubes, which only have 2 joins in them. The system can freeze and it can overheat, and it's producing heat for pasteurisation in a creamery, and it's going great guns. But I would also echo the whole thing about having a startup. I've done it practically myself by subcontracting and be clever about how you use money. And right now though, again, I can't offer any jobs right now. I can offer free internships. If somebody wants to find money for it, then that's fine. The product though is going to be certified the early part of next year, and we're going to do the same thing, get early sales, and the plan is to get investment, and that's when we'll start building the team towards the end of the year. It's the plan. So if anybody is interested in the startup sort of environment, yeah, you have to be versatile. Right now I do everything, it's CEO, CTO, CMO, the whole lot. You do it, and I'm the installer right now as well. So the key to it is getting the system works. It's now getting certified and getting out there and getting sales. So yeah, if you want to link in with me, Stuart Speaks Entropy, or come and see me on the stand. Any questions? And yeah, just fire away. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Stuart. Just, I would say, as far as what Robert does, building services engineers, in the old days that meant just routing electrics around in ducts and what route do they take, and it was really boring. Now it's a really important part of the building process. It's so important that we have the right services, otherwise we overheat, we bad indoor air quality, etc. By the way, we do have a SEDA solar section which does events on solar. I would just like to ask, because this is our panel session, we've got a lot of entrepreneurs, and I'd just like the entrepreneurs very briefly to say, what qualification did you have, or what do you think? Because it's quite daunting for students. I can't just become an entrepreneur. What should I be doing if I have got an idea? What should I be doing to get there? Science degree. What is it that you did? Very as briefly as possible, because there are a few of you, please.
Okay, I'm a registered mental nurse. I obviously don't do nursing anymore. That's my qualification. I don't know. I suppose where I'm at is having developed and grown and from a hobby, and I'm just basically building on a hobby and developing a business because of other people's curiosity in it. I feel it's right, and I suppose I'm up against it in that it's a practice. Vermiculture is a practice which is not really recognised in this country. I'm the only, well, not the only, the first salaried vermiculturist was employed this year, which I was happy to be involved in. I'm still not salaried, but the opportunity to work with the education and the research institutions to be able to gather and develop the evidence so that we can give confidence to the potential future market is what's driving me at the moment. I would say I'm not in a position to employ anyone. I would like to employ myself first of all, but I'm far down the line of developing my business model into what's called a living lab, where there are opportunities for students and other businesses to use that space.
Yeah, awesome. Sam,
I've heard it said that entrepreneurs are either sort of psychopaths or sociopaths. I think it's a interesting choice to make. There are lots of ups and lots of downs, but the rewards can be incredibly fruitful, particularly in trying to follow something that you're genuinely passionate about and really trying to make a change. I studied structural engineering with architectural design and then did a PhD in life cycle carbon assessment. So I suppose there is logic to where I ended up with this, with Kenetech and the K-Brick. But I just feel that the construction industry in general, I just want to say this, it is screaming out for some young blood, some new ideas, some new innovations, and there's huge opportunities within the construction industry and wider surrounding sustainable world and sustainability careers. So I would really encourage that. They may not be traditionally seen as sort of sexy and interesting jobs, but I beg to differ. So yeah, I would encourage you all to get involved.
Thank you. Jen, would you like to answer on behalf of the founders? Can you speak for them or not? IndiNature. Maybe if not, don't
Yeah,
worry.
no, I think I'll pass
No,
it over
okay.
and say
Stuart,
that's
okay.
okay.
Entrepreneur, yeah.
Yeah. So the right way you're supposed to do it is you're supposed to see if there's a market first, and then actually come up with an idea. I think most people, though, entrepreneurs, don't do that. They'll come up with the idea and go, like, "This, I'm interested in this. I want to do this." So, and it just luckily that there was a market, and there is a market for my product. But when I first started, there wasn't. So one of the big things you need to do is have resilience and be clever about how you do it. You need to do as much as you can, right? The whole thing about, I said earlier, with subcontracting and everything, but doing prototypes and proving things to people is the way to do it. You can't just come up with an idea and go, "Oh, give us £1,000 or £1 million or whatever to do it." You have to prove as much as you can to progress it, whether that be for going for a grant or getting on a business accelerator. So that's the way that I did it. I got on a business accelerator. I managed to get onto one that was actually designed for textiles, but it went under production. I managed to get in there and build my first prototype on it. So you need to be clever and not think that it's not. It is difficult to do. So you have to learn new skills. You have to learn how to do. I did anyway. All finance skills. What's VAT? How do you do VAT? How do you claim this? How do you blah, blah, blah. So don't expect to just come up with an idea and go, "I want to do it." And one other reason is not to do that is that you might get investment, but then you will not go up. You'll give up a bigger slice of the cake. So the more you can keep over your company without taking investment, the better, until you really need to take investment. So try and leverage grants and do prototypes, show people we've done it, work with universities. So we got a lot of small grants, £5,000 here, £5,000 there, to prove another aspect of it. Then you can go and say to Innovate UK or other grant people, basically, we've proven this with Edinburgh, we've proven this with Glasgow, proven this with Strathclyde, we've de-risked it, they understand what we're doing, then you can go for a big grant, and then you can move things on like that. It might take a bit longer to do it, but right now, that's the way that I've done it. Other companies might have done it different ways. Entrepreneurs can take an investment on because of large capital expenditure, probably is the one that would drive it. But if you can do something that you can do yourself as much as you can, that would be my advice.
Okay, thank you, Stuart. I might pass on to Jamie, but are there questions from the audience for any of these people before I... Any questions at all, or observations, or... No? Okay. Jamie, do you want to talk about how you sort of set up?
Sure, yeah. So I started a conglomerate along with some co-founders whilst I was still at university. But similarly to yourself, Stuart, we actually got a lot of grants and stuff as well. Because we find that Scotland's actually a really good place to start a business right now. We had lots of support, especially coming out of university. We had access to things like the Converge Challenge and Scottish Edge. But also lots of business support. I studied games programming, was taught absolutely nothing about business, but just taught myself as we started. I knew that cash flow is like the most important thing. So we looked at grants, looked at like Innovate UK and Scottish Edge, but also got some support from places like Scottish Enterprise and Business Gateway. They helped give the skills that we lacked. And yeah, it was all about grants at the start to make sure that we had money to actually run the company. and that was kind of from the start. Although we didn't have as much to pay for other than salaries, so I don't envy yourselves with the whole manufacturing costs.
Thank you, Jim. I'm talking loudly, is that okay? Yeah. It's just, I thought to bring in Scott McAulay. I'm just wondering if Scott, as well as working for a big practice, he also has done a lot of sort of community type work and regenerative type work. And I don't know if any of those groups are ones that it's worth introducing here. Are they always voluntary, or some of those companies that make money because you've been involved with so many different community groups?
I think with a lot of it, there's the amount of expertise you can bring as soon as you have training is invaluable. So there's been some projects where it's kind of retrofitting communities, or community led, where it's a CIC, but they do work in collaboration with a studio at an architecture school. So if you have any opportunity to do any of your work as a live project, do that. What I did personally was at the University of Strathclyde, there was no one who specialised in ecological building materials, so I just looked up in the list of Scotland what architects have built with this, did my dissertation on the subject, and just spent a few months going around asking lots and lots of questions and getting to know what's going on, but also getting hands-on with what you're doing. So if you're going to look at something technical, build it with your hands. When I was in my second year of university, I went and helped build a hempcrete house in Le Contamine in Montjoly in the French Alps. And through doing that, and by looking for opportunities like that, where they were able to put you up in exchange for your time and your labour. So you had somewhere to stay, but you also helped with the building, which is pretty satisfying to stand and watch. But it is also, as much as kind of funding is a thing, you also need to be very cautious of where funding comes from, or who is funding what, because lots of kind of investments are still in fossil fuel, arms, genocide, occupation, dispossession. And the ethics of that, I think you've got to be really clear on your ethics, and that's not a bad thing. The clearer you are, the better, but also the better you feel about your work. Because some of the most satisfying days of work I've ever had have been doing some of the really kind of, yes, I did volunteering, I did a little bit of writing for a community organisation, but I got to watch 140 people learn about retrofitting their homes and share a meal together, had it interspersed by a poet. But look at what's happening around you before you start choosing your projects you're going to write about. So if you're really interested in doing kind of community-based work, Glasgow's amazing for community meals. Look around at who's offering what and just speak to people. Not just outside of your discipline as students, but just get to know people where you live. And that's probably the biggest part of that. Like most of that, my tenants union, I do quite a lot of support, technical support for living rent. So when they did their kind of just transition for tenants around COP26, I helped train all the spokespeople who were going to talk to the papers instead of talking for them. So I gave them expertise and stepped back. And that's still used going door to door across Scotland to teach people about health and buildings. But look at what's happening around you. Don't just keep yourself to academic or industries. Keep it really, really, really broad. And look for things where you can pitch in on projects. You might not get paid. I'm not going to say do unpaid internships, because ethics, no lines, be paid for your work. All of your time is worth money. But yeah, I would say on the community front, just keep an open eye and open mind for what's happening around you, because there's always going to be something that surprises you. Kind of community gardens, lots of community buildings are being sold now. For example, Church of Scotland's looking to offload a lot, so lots of community groups are looking for project managers to help them run that. There's one in Bells Hill and Leaf, where I think they've got Community Land Scotland to support the renovation of a church building into a community centre. It's already well used, but they need someone with that expertise. So where can you take your expertise to support good things happening around you? And just keep the ethics just front and centre from the beginning. I was been very clear with that in projects as well. I've got several lines.
Thank you, Scott. It's not. Yeah. Okay. Still no questions? No. Gosh. Wow. I mean, I find that what you all do incredibly inspiring, and a lot of you have made a real leap out in there, and you are now, well, you aren't paying, I hope you're paying yourselves soon, Scott, but I've been encouraged. A few of you said that there is investment in Scotland, because I generally think that the UK is pretty poor at that. I mean, America's the one where the startups, but then it's the scaling up, isn't it? We have a lot of startups, and one of the people in the panel before from iBio IC, they help with entrepreneurs in the biosector, but then it's the scaling up so that we actually the company becomes viable. seems to be the problem. And I did try and get some financial green investors to come, but the only ones I know are in London, and they couldn't come up. Otherwise, you end up being taken over. And I'd rather another person that was nice to have on the first panel, or maybe it's one before, I forget, was Rob McKenna from James Jones. So they've still a family company that makes timber products. They're the largest one in Scotland, and they're big in the UK field as well. And I did want to ask him, how have you not been taken over? Because this is what seems to happen. You either move to America or you get taken over. So it's really encouraging that some of you say, no, there is life out there. Do any of you have sort of questions for any of the other panelists, or sort of observations that you want to make? Or, yeah, thank you, Sam.
Sorry, I wanted to comment along those all of these lines. There are really good investors in Scotland, but unfortunately mainly at the sort of seed level. It's that sort of, in investment speak, Series A, that scale up money where you have to go to London or the US. And valuations are wildly different. If you from Scotland to London to the US, you're almost going sort of a quarter to a half to one. And how they look at your business. So it really depends on where you are in your journey. I would just an observation, and you've done it your way, and amazing for you. We wanted to bring in money early, but sort of smart investment. So our investors they owned a waste company until recently. So while we're giving away something, they're giving us a huge amount of understanding of value in other ways, and now we're only just. I mean, we've been very lucky with Scottish Enterprise, Zero Waste Scotland, Interface Scotland, Royal Academy of Engineering. These are all grant providers. So we've been incredibly lucky with that, but it's cost us about £5 million to get to where we are today, and we're still not, wiping our own face. But now we're going out to the syndicates and the sort of institutional investors. So what I would say is, it's not always bad to give away something if you get something in return, particularly in the construction industry, where it is still very much a bit of an old boys club, to be brutally honest. And sometimes I think you need to work with that to get in that door and to open those doors where a new company otherwise might not be able to.
It's all about building credibility, isn't it? So if you partner up with, it's about building credibility, really. And if you can do it by partnering with, a known player in the area, then it's great. It's the same with working with universities, because you get some validation by working with universities. So if you did want to go down the entrepreneurial way of doing it, then it's just think cleverly about how you do it. And if it makes sense to take investment on, then definitely, do it if you can get it. And that's the thing, isn't it? I didn't do it like that, but it's taken me a long time. I did it part-time for 5 years with my proper job, and I think that worked for me because the world sort of caught up now with my product. At the time, people were, well, you can just put a gas boiler on, well, why would we want that on your roof? Why do you want energy that's low carbon? And now, because I had the passion and the vision, not really the vision, to be honest, I didn't know the world was going to change. I just had the passion for it, and it's just luck it came together. But Bill Gates, when he created Windows, I'm sure he didn't go, all right, I'm going to have he did say he had the vision and he created the market, but I wonder if that actually happened. I probably had the passion first of all. And a lot of entrepreneurs have the passion, and then they change their backstory to say, I thought about it.
Thank you. I think we're nearing the end now, but just to also put the perspective of the small crafter into this, I did ask Susan Anderson from Scottish Yarn to come to represent the textile industry, and we have had people. Somebody was talking about Thistle. That they're a larger company, but I know quite a lot of now individual weavers and knitters who now work collectively. So that is something that was becoming unviable 10 years ago and is now becoming viable. I know one based at Balcastian Estate in Fife. She's just on her own, and she's now selling to these sort of haute couture fashion houses in London. They come up to her one, and then another person I know runs the Scottish Textile showroom, and she collects all these people, so they work collectively and they have selling power collectively. So, you know, if you happen, generally I'm talking about larger scale things, but it is possible sometimes to do things small scale, link up with others, you know, if that's where your passion happens to lie. We're now at the end of this session, so just to reiterate, the recording's going to be available. Do tell your friends about it. Do come and speak to these panelists more, or go and find their stands to find out more about them. I hope you've enjoyed it. Join SEDA if you believe in ecological design. And now, just finally, if I would like to put your hands together for Stuart, Jamie, Jennie, Sam, Robert, Scott, and Scott.